Hello everybody and welcome to another pendulum read. And this week we're going to be looking at Henry VIII. So was he just a fat oaf or was he nuts? Henry VIII, he was the King of England from 1509 to 1547. And he was famous for his 6 wives and for breaking with the Roman Catholic Church to establish the Church of England. And he greatly increased the size of the Royal Navy to protect England from potential attacks after his separation from Rome and the Catholic Church. His marriages are famously remembered by the rhyme divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived. Who'd be Henry VIII's wife, eh? So there was Catherine of Aragon. She was divorced. Anne Boleyn. She was beheaded. Jane Seymour, she died. And then there was Anne of Cleves, she was divorced. Catherine Howard, she was beheaded. And Catherine Parr, lucky girl, she survived. So his 6 marriages led to a desperate search for a male heir. And his decision to break with Rome enabled him to divorce Catherine of Aragon and marry his fancy bit on the side, who was Anne Boleyn. And this made him the supreme head of the Church of England and led to the dissolution of the monastrys, seizing their wealth for the crown. So he took everything they had. And this event really was known as the English Reformation. And in his youth, he was very athletic, intelligent, and a patron of the arts. And his reign was marked by political and religious upheaval. And it had a profound and lasting impact on English history, with some historians saying that he helped create the modern world, which he certainly had a very big hand in it. So in 1536, he had a second jousting accident whereby he fell from his horse in full body armour and was knocked unconscious for some time. He'd previously had a head injury in 1524, when he fell off his horse into a ditch because he'd forgotten to put his visor down on his armour, and the other fella came along and poked him above the head with his big lance, the lance they used to joust with. Poked him above the head, knocked him off his horse. So he sounds like he was a bit of a clumsy oaf. Anyway, Henry was survived by 3 legitimate children, all of whom eventually ruled England: Edward VI, Mary I, and Elizabeth I. He also had an acknowledged illegitimate son who was Henry Fitzroy, and he died young. And ironically, it was his daughter, Elizabeth I, who became one of England's most celebrated monarchs, probably the most famous. So what we're looking at here was the accident in his racing accidents, and did that affect his mind? Was he mentally disturbed? And that's the sort of questions we're going to go down. So we're going to explore these questions. We're going to put the camera down and focus onto the pendulum, and I hope you enjoy this. Alrighty, let's look down here. We have solstice. We're going to use solstice. This is our beautiful, beautiful amethyst pendulum. I always ask them what they want to be called. I ask them their permission to call them a name, and if they don't like it, they can say yay or nay. And I just sit them on this slab of very pretty rose quartz, which I'll put over there, and that's a lovely lump of amethyst just sits beside it. Henry VIII. So the question originally was Henry VIII a big fat oaf, or was he just nuts? And so we're going to ask Solstice, was Henry VIII a kind and a nice young man? Was Henry VIII a kind and a nice young man? They're saying yes. Yes, he was. Solstice, it's yes is north-south. Okay. So did the jousting accident where Henry VIII was knocked unconscious off his horse, did it have a profound effect on his personality? Did the jousting accident where Henry VIII was knocked off his horse unconscious, did it have a profound effect on his personality? North-south again. That's a yes. So were the serious head injuries that he sustained, were the serious head injuries that Henry VIII sustained, were they in any way responsible for his increasingly cruel, paranoid, erratic, and explosive rages? Were his head injuries responsible for a change of personality, for his cruel, paranoid, erratic, and explosive rages? Yes, they were. They changed his personality. Okay. So were Henry VIII's injuries, were they consistent with memory problems, poor impulse control, headaches, insomnia, and impotence in later life? It affected his growth, the way his body worked. Wow. Poor man, really. He was disabled. Okay. So were the injuries that Henry VIII sustained, were they why he had significant weight gain? Was it due to potential damage to his pituitary gland that disrupted sort of hormone production? Is that why he was a big fat oaf? Yes. Sorry, Henry, mustn't call you a big fat oaf, but you really were on the podgy side. Okay. He was what we might call a bit of a hog. So, did the medications used to treat the king's chronic non-healing leg ulcers contain high levels of lead? And could that have been absorbed through his skin, and did it cause him psychiatric problems and violence? So the medications that were used to treat the king's chronic leg ulcers, which weren't healing, did they contain high levels of lead? So we're getting a clockwise motion there. Oops. And it says it doesn't know. So basically, we're not going to get an answer to that one. It doesn't know. Clockwise motion is don't know. All right. Did Henry VIII damage the frontal lobe of his brain in his falls? Did Henry VIII damage the frontal lobe of his brain in his falls from his horse? Yeah. Just remember that he would have been in full metal armour on a huge horse. so his weight would have been doubled when he fell. So did Henry enjoy, this is a really bizarre question, but did Henry VIII enjoy the removal of his wives by beheading? Just remember, his personality had changed. Did Henry VIII enjoy the removal of his wives by beheading? Did he seek pleasure from it? Did he get pleasure from it? In other words, he became a sadist. Yes, he did. He took pleasure from that. Oh, Henry. You really were a trotter, weren't you? Okay. Did Henry VIII have any guilt for the beheading of his wives? Did he ever carry any guilt for how he treated his wives or the beheading of his wives? In other words, did Henry VIII have a conscience? Oh, yes, he did. He did. He did. He felt guilty for it. So you should. So you should. Okay? Right. Did Henry VIII create trumped-up charges to get rid of his wives? I know that he would have asked Cromwell to carry those out, Thomas Cromwell, but did he create trumped-up charges to get rid of his wives? You bet he did. That's a yes, he certainly did. Now, were Henry VIII's wives, were any of his wives guilty of any of the charges that he laid against them in order to get rid of them? Were any of Henry VIII's wives guilty of the charges that he laid against them? Look at that. Look at that. That is a no. They weren't guilty. Wrongly accused. He would say anything just to get rid of them. It's a complete change of mental behaviour, isn't it? All right. Did Henry VIII die of natural causes or ailments? Did Henry VIII die of natural causes or ailments? I'm saying yes. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. I thought he might have exploded. Oh dear. What a odd bod he was. Just a couple more questions here. Every now and again I just have to rest my hand because it's quite strain on your arms doing this. Alrighty. Did Henry VIII have gout, syphilis, and type 2 diabetes? Yes, he did. Dirty old Henry. Gout from too much drinking. We know where he got his syphilis from. And type 2 diabetes probably was as a result of his pigginess. I'm sure that's a technical term. Piggy. Okay. Did any of Henry VIII's previous wives, did any of them haunt him? Did any of Henry VIII's previous wives, did they haunt him? Yes, they did. Good for you, girls. I hope they shoved a bat up his nightdress. Yes, they certainly did. Right. Now, as the booby prize question, I am going to ask this. Is Prince Harry the reincarnation of Henry VIII? Is Prince Harry the reincarnation of Henry VIII? Is Prince Harry The reincarnation of Henry VIII. Oh my God. Wow. I didn't expect that. Certainly his namesake. Wow. That's a yes, friends. That's a yes. Right. Well, there we are. It's interesting, isn't it? The answers that you get from these things, it is interesting. You can't deny there's a power in them. So there we go. That was Henry VIII. I hope you enjoyed it. And the title was he just a big fat oaf, or was he nuts? And we kind of know that he was a little of both. So advice for anybody who's going on a time travel that goes backwards and not forwards: if you bump into Henry VIII, don't marry him. Don't marry him. No. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. It was a bit of fun. We'd have learnt some interesting things, and hopefully we'll know a little bit more about him. So, hope you've enjoyed that. Be kind to yourself, be kind to everybody else, and just have fun. Lots of love. Bye for now.